Legion newspaper, and committees make up the 4 areas where money has to be spent in order to keep the organization running. A lot of people say, how much does it cost to run the organization? The finance committee sits down each year along with the finance liaison, Laura Weber, and myself, and the incoming commander, and they sit down and they look at the budget. And it takes about $1.3 million to run the organization. Again, I'll talk about those areas in detail and where the money goes, again, on a history. So let's take a look at the revenue versus expenses overall and what a healthy gap is. And if you know what I'm talking about, you got income coming in, you got money that you're spending. There should be a gap in there, because when they cross, something's going to have to change. You're either going to have to cut costs or increase expenses when those 2 lines touch. So it's good to have a healthy gap, and we'll talk about that gap and what's happened to that gap over the years. And we'll do a comparison of the various expense areas over the different past years. So let's look first at that revenue, our overall income from dues, and remember, from LIT, from USAA, the MNDVA grant. Where does all that money come from? And that's the very top line. And if you'll see in 2006, and forgive me, you don't have handouts. If those that are in the DEC, you have your handouts, please share them with those that weren't able to see a part of this brief. But you see a gap. Back in 2006, there's a very healthy gap there. We're a nonprofit, so we don't want to make too much money. So, but that is a good stretch. What do we keep in reserves? We keep about 1 year's operating budget in reserves. A lot of companies and organizations go 2 years in reserves. Some companies and organizations save 3 years in reserves. We save about 1 year in reserves. You'll see from 2006 all the way until this year, that gap was good. We were healthy. We were not exceeding, our expenses. We were spending and still having a little left at the end of the year. Until 2015, this year, our expenses have met our income. So something's going to either have to raise that income somehow, or we're going to have to lower the expenses. So we'll take a detailed look at both income and expenses. Let's start with income, membership income. Back in 1998, income, you can see where it was, just below 100,000. And as our membership decreased, which is logical because we're in an era where, think about membership, think about those that were members of the armed forces. In World War II, 16 million veterans were generated as a result of World War II. 16 million served during that era. Now we'll take a look at Korea, a few less, Vietnam, a few less. And, we've all heard, and our organization itself lobbies very hard to make sure we maintain a strong national defense. As the country and the leaders in Washington are trying to make the Army smaller, the Navy smaller, the Air Force smaller, we're fighting to make sure that we have at least a sufficient force to support the needs of our country in the event we're called to arms. So, but in the end result, that bubble, when there was a time when there was a majority of World War II veterans, Korea, Vietnam, sprinkling of post-Vietnam vets, and still a few of the World War I vets alive. There was a bubble in that in that pipeline of membership available to draw from to join the American Legion. That bubble is getting smaller, and the end result is we're getting smaller. But the good news is we live in the Midwest. In the Midwest, we have a high percentage into that market. In other words, we're able to get more of the veterans that are eligible to join the American Legion here in the upper Midwest than most other parts of the country. So that's a good thing. We're still getting about 30-some%. Same thing we got back when that bubble was real big. So we're still doing as good in a ratio to the number of members we're getting. But the end result is, because the membership's going down, you'll see that the money that comes from that to help run the operations is going down. And you'll see there somewhere about 2008, we did a dues increase for the department. And you see that spike. But again, because of the natural fact of the pipelines getting that's narrower, we're going down in membership, and we're going down in dues received as a result of it. Another area of income is mail solicitation, which I just talked about. The American Legion for years went with a company called Cotton Barton Cotton, and that company had some issues and they went out of business. And the American Legion at that time then decided to go with a company called Valley Printworks out of Boston or out on the coast, and Baltimore. And so when you receive things in the mail, you would often see that they had a mailing address of Baltimore. You say, why are we sending stuff to Baltimore when I want to go to Minnesota programs? Well, the hard fact of that is the business of mail solicitation is a scientific business. And it's a business that neither I, nor Al, nor Jeremy, nor Laura, none of us have that education, knowledge, and background. And I'll show you a slide that's a good representation of that when we try to do a mail solicitation program by ourselves here in the department. They're professionals. They do a very good job at what they do. National also has a company that they utilize that helps us raise revenue through mail solicitation. The originator of that is a company called Resource One out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So sometimes you'll see solicitation in your mailbox that'll ask you to write out a check for the Department of Minnesota, but you'll ask, why am I sending it to Tulsa? Because Tulsa is the company that does the national fundraising program. So for a period of time, you were getting things in the mailbox from asking you to send money from Minnesota to Tulsa, and you were getting things in the mailbox asking you to send money to the East Coast for the Department of Minnesota. The department executive committee, not in the most recent meeting, but the prior meeting to that, gave the finance committee the authority to change the contract over if they felt that it was a worthy thing to do. In other words, if it would bring us more revenue if we went with the Tulsa folks through the national organization, and that decision was made. That contract was signed. So, end result, you're going to start seeing a little bit different in your solicitation packages. It isn't you, the members, that are the primary target. You may feel like you are when your mailbox is full of those things, but really, we try not to ask ourselves to support our own organization. We ask outside the organization. So, and they do a very, very good job at Resource One at doing that. They know people that are part of, they purchase and rent lists from like the NRA, Ducks Unlimited. You would be surprised to know all of the companies that use this one place, Resource One. The American Legion uses them, the VFW uses them, the DAV uses them, NRA uses them, the National Olympics Committee, the American part of it, the US part of it, they use them for solicitation. So they're a well-grounded, very good group. The good thing too is we're going to start recruiting DMS along with when we ask non-members, when they mail to the non-member list, they are going to ask for membership. They're going to be asked to join the American Legion. They have the science to know that if we scrub a list maybe from DNR, or we scrub a list from Outdoor Life, or we scrub a list from Guns, or we scrub a list from Bow Hunter or In Fisherman, if they scrub those lists, more than likely veterans are going to be on those lists. So that will be a source of recruiting in addition to a source of income for us. So that's mail solicitation income. And the thing to see is, again, it's kind of the same. If you look across there, back in 1998, it was just under 100,000, and we're right back to just under about 100,000 a year that we get through mail solicitation. That's managed by the department staff. Your finance liaison, Laura Weber works with that. In the past, it was Roger Myron, your comptroller, and they, along with myself and the finance committee, work on that mail solicitation income. So there's another source of income. We talk about LIT, and Mr. Bartkonek was up here, gave a report yesterday, and I just talked briefly a few moments ago about that program. It is growing and getting bigger and better every year, and God bless Bill. He does a lot of work with that. We get phone calls every day. I get them. Jeremy gets them when somebody passes away. They call and ask, hey, how do we find out whether my husband or my wife who just passed away, who's a veteran, did they get LIT benefits? Were they member? You know, a lot of times, you know, I know at my house, all that stuff's in one drawer. And in my house, my wife watches those things. So when I pass away, she's going to be right on the phone to Jeremy and Phil. making sure that all of those paperwork are done. But if she passes away, I'm going to be kind of lost. I'm going to be digging through a bunch of paper because she takes care of it. But long story short, LIT is a good source of revenue, and it's only getting better. MNDVA grant, you'll see that it only started in 2006, and the reason is, shortly after World War II, the veteran service organizations of Minnesota were given the opportunity to buy in and have their claims offices run by the state of Minnesota employees. We are the only service organization that chose to do that. The VFW runs their own claims office. The DAV runs their own full-blown claims office. Military Order of the Purple Heart runs their own full-blown claims office without the aid and assistance of the state of Minnesota employees. We, on the other hand, team up with the state of Minnesota employees. Why? Because they, like the American Legion, go to Department Service Officer training, they go to County Service Officer training, they have certain credentials that they have to meet, just like Jeremy, our own service officer. It's a very structured system. And since World War II, we've been with them. So up until 2006, the legislature did not provide us funds because the American Legion ran our own rehab program off of our own funds. But the state said, you know what, that's not fair to the American Legion. They should get a piece of that pie to help support veterans as well. So we started getting a state grant from Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, and you can see that that's risen significantly over the years. And again, that's managed by myself, Laura Weber, and the grant specialist. If you've ever worked, has anybody ever worked with the state of Minnesota or on a government grant? If you have, it drives you crazy because there are lots of rules. You can do this, you can't do that, you can document this. Here's a good example. For the state of Minnesota, if you're an employee and you want to claim mileage, you have this report you fill out. And it's kind of like back in the days when we were in the military. You got a very detailed report. You got to put down the date, the time, the current mileage on the vehicle, where you're going, your destination. And then when you stop to go to the bathroom or you stop to get something to eat, you got to write that you made a stop, where you made the stop, what the ending mileage was when you pulled in there, what your beginning mileage is when you're done eating at McDonald's and you leave. 90% of state employees or grant people do not utilize the money that's provided for transportation because it's just so detailed. But don't worry, we are able to utilize that money. We utilize it in rehab, and I'll show you here shortly how we do that. The last source of income is USAA revenue. Again, that's a new relationship between the American Legion and the national organization. We as a state had the opportunity to sign on with USAA. Just so that you know, we did something a little unique that none of the other states that signed on with them did. We had our own Minnesota contract with USAA. There were some things that we wanted to know about and control and make sure that we had the control of that relationship and that we were able to work together with USAA on our level. And a lot of that was with advertising and the ability to be at our conventions and conferences, and you've seen them here. And so know that your department staff, we are working very close with watching where the money comes from and how the money's spent, even to the point where we do unique things like I talked about just now, creating a contract with USA, and no other department did that. We said, you know, we want to make sure that you don't overwhelm us with your materials, be polite to our customers, don't send them mailings every single month. So those are the kind of things we negotiated on an individual department basis with USAA to make sure that you're getting good support from them. Now, let's see where the money's spent. Admin budget. What is in that admin budget? Well, right up front, it's salaries. We'll tell you that. There's salaries. There's 9 employees that work for the organization. 7 of them are full-time. Most all of them are veterans. Some of them are currently serving, such as Heather. There's several of the veterans that work for your department that are disabled veterans, and they receive benefits through the government because of that. You have 2 that are retired military that work in your organization at the department headquarters or through our system. They receive benefits for that. A lot of them have spouses that work second jobs. Those of us that are employees are not allowed to have a second job, so we don't take on second employment. However, In the case of those that are currently serving, it's obvious. Heather just came back from a long deployment, and so we encourage that if one of our employees is a member, we have in our program built right in that they have an ability to go serve the state of Minnesota as well as the country if they're put on federal orders, and allows them to leave the work area for that, and we compensate them to a certain level, and then they compensate the rest of it based on their pay that they receive while deployed. So part of that budget is salary. Part of that budget, if you ever ran a business, you know that you have to take care of your employees with benefits. Part of that's benefits, insurance benefits, health coverage, which is health coverage, other medical, dental, things like that that is available to us. Now, how do we do that? Well, we actually take the easy route. We go to the state of Minnesota and say, what do you offer to state employees? Well, this is the package of benefits that we offer. So we, the American Legion Department in Minnesota, along with the Finance Committee overview and Finance Liaison, we look at that and we work with the state of Minnesota's benefits plan. So Jeremy, myself, Heather, Laura, Jennifer, Al, we all receive the benefits that the state employees receive. Nothing more, nothing less. We get what the state employees get for benefits. Also in the admin budget, well, you need ink, you need paper, you need to rent a truck to bring all this stuff here. We don't hire people to bring all this and set all this up and make this all available for you. Al and Jeremy and Heather and I and the girls pack it all up into boxes, everything that you see there, all the paperwork you've received while you've been here, all the administrative support, the computers, the copy machines, all of those things. We load all that up. We bring it to the convention and the fall conference. We set all this up. We're getting to the point where we may ask the Finance Committee to say, you know, I'm 100% service-connected disabled. We have others in the group that do this work that have service-connected disabilities. Al and I are getting a little older, and at some point we may ask if we can hire a crew to set this stuff up, to pack it into the truck. We rent the truck, Al drives the truck. So when Al comes to a convention, if you see him go out and enjoy some time alone, you'll see him in a big rider's truck, because that's what he don't get to bring his car here. He's got this big, want to go golfing? Yeah, let's go. Everybody get in the back. So the point there is that we do that for the Legion, and we also do it for the auxiliary. We load up all that stuff, and they got everything. You've seen it. They bring 1 million flags and all of that. We pack all that up and load it. We don't hire a company to do that because we try to be good stewards of the money of the Department of Minnesota. I want to reiterate, office equipment comes out of that. Contracts to make sure that there's somebody there that takes care of the copy machine, because if you're in a business, you know that you have to have a contract to take care of the copy machine, the folding machine, the envelope stuffing machine, all of the electronics to run a major office that supports 80,000 people in 540 some outlets. Think of it in that way. We have 540 some posts, 80,000 members, and we provide support to them, 10 districts. So if you think of it in a business relationship, the headquarters supports just like a major franchise across the state of Minnesota. We have outlets. When people ask me, what do you do? I say, I'm the executive director, I'm the administrator of an organization that's a nonprofit that has 540 some outlets across the state of Minnesota, broken into 10 regions. And they go, wow, what is it? It's American Legion. What? Yeah, American Legion has 80,000 members. We have 540 some outlets across the state of Minnesota in every single community, and we have 10 regions, and that's our structure, and that's how we take care of it. So that's the admin part of it. That's what it costs. Those are the costs associated with taking care of the organization. The other part, another expense, is rehab. They're broken out separately by the Constitution. The Minnesota Constitution of the American Legion, we have that. It's in there that it's kind of set aside separately. That's where a lot of the funding, well, all of the MNDVA funding goes there. They do have a certain amount that goes towards salaries, but what that really pays for out of rehab, and you may not realize this, first of all, the American Legion supports administratively more than, and you heard the commissioner talk about it, They serve 52% of all veterans' disability claims, education claims, home loan requests, anything to do with a veteran's benefit, burial benefits. 52% of all veterans that receive benefits are through the American Legion office. All the others that receive benefits in Minnesota are either split across the VFW, the DAV, VVA, Purple Heart, Paralyzed Vets of America. There's 9 of them out there that have support for veterans, but the Legion alone, Jeremy, Heather, and those state employees I talked about, they support 52% of all disabilities in the state of Minnesota. Now, you'll look at that and you'll say, oh, spendings went up. If you look at 2002 to 2006, it was going down because if at that time, you remember, in that respect, the department had a couple of folks that worked there. They moved on. We had one replacement. Eventually, I came in. So they went from 2 to 3 people down to 1. And then somewhere around 05 or 06, I asked for an assistant. And that was Tom Newman. Tom Newman came in. And another thing that happened at that time, think about it. Look at the year, 2004. Jeremy can tell you very well what happened in 2004. 2003, 2004, things got really, really bad in the sandbox. We had a lot of veterans coming home with a lot of needs. It should be a no-brainer that we spend a little more money in rehab because we were the polytrauma center. You all know that Minnesota had the polytrauma center. We had Yellow Ribbon starting, and rehab supports and works with all of those folks. We had started the 30, 60, 90 day reintegration program. So as our troops were coming home every 30, 60, 90 days, Jeremy and Tom or whoever was in those seats was out there seeing them. That cost money to make sure we were giving those services to those vets and that the American Legion was being seen by them as they came home. So yes, there was an increase in the budget in rehab, and obviously so because we're a nation at war. And Minnesota, as we all know, is the leader when it comes to the model of taking care of veterans because it's been repeated all around the country. The Yellow Ribbon program, the way that we all work together, it was said at the podium by the director of the VISN, Patrick Kelly, talked about. It's amazing how we all work together in Minnesota. The American Legion, the VFW, the DAV, the federal VA, the state VA, we can all sit at the table, the county veteran service officers, and we do, and we all get along because we have one focus, taking care of veterans, and that's what it's about. So obviously, there's been an increase in spending in the rehab area. Let's take a look at the Legionnaire, the newspaper. Newspaper serves 80,000 people in the state of Minnesota. The Legionnaire is about the 3rd largest distributed publication in the newspaper form in the state of Minnesota behind the 2 major newspapers in the Twin Cities. The Legionnaire is the primary source of veterans communication in a written form across the board, period, in the state of Minnesota. If you've seen the recent reports on Carol Levin and they talk about the VA, the first thing they flash up there is the Legionnaire. Because they know, our media outlets know that the Legionnaire is the largest paper. We're bigger than the VFW paper. We're bigger than all the other service order papers. We go out on a monthly basis still. Did you know that the VFW, the DAV, and I'm not down in any of our brothers and sisters in other service organizations, but they have got to the point where they've had to cut their paper. They've had to cut things like services. They have less people working, doing what Jeremy and Heather do. We don't want to do that. We want to continue to serve the veterans of Minnesota at the very best level we're capable of serving. And so you'll see that despite all of that, the rising costs of postage, the rising cost of ink, the rising cost of paper, despite all that, pretty much a level line. Actually, Al has gotten it to where the publications committee have gotten it to where they're spending less in 2016 than what was spent in 2002 and before. So he's got a savings. He's made a savings over those. How many here have been able to save in their home budget over the past 10 years? I think we're all probably spending a little more today than we did 10 years ago. So I commend Al and the Board of Publications for the work they do there. Committee budget, that's y'all doing the work of the Legion, and I applaud you for that. It doesn't get done unless volunteers are out there knocking on doors, talking to people, bringing our youth, as we've seen earlier, into these programs and talking with them, and running Boys State and running the Oratorical and running Legionville and running all the different programs and all the different things that we do cost money because you get per diem and mileage, right? And so that's what those costs are. Plus it costs to get some plaques, and it's rightly so. We should recognize those that have done the hard work in the different areas of the Legion. So all those things cost money. And so those are the costs of the committees. Oh, they've even saved some money. They've flatlined on their spending pretty much from 2000 to the current date in 2016. And they've actually saved a little bit of money. So they're not spending as much there. Now let's take a look at all of them thrown on the board together. The 4 areas of spending, and how much of the budget do each of those 4 areas eat up in any given year. So the budget overall, that 1.3 million to run all 4 of those areas, changes throughout the years, but the amount that each of those 4 spending categories utilizes is depicted in this slide. The bottom one is the administrative cost. Any company, any corporation, any volunteer 501c3 at the state level and above are going to have higher costs, and it just costs money to make sure that you have benefits and wages. So, but here's the key thing. Look at 2002, 43% in 2002, 43% of the budget went to admin. Paper, ink, contracts, getting this stuff all here set up, done. 43%, under half of the operating budget went to those items. Let's zoom up to 2015. Oh my God, 43%. The staff budget has stayed the same off of what we're spending of the overall budget. What it takes to run the organization for you costs. We're spending in relation to the overall budget the same amount today as was in 2002. Well, how do you do that? Well, as the organization numbers come down, we're able to lower the number of staff. In 2002 and before, in the 90s, there's some in this room that could tell us that on the rehab committee, there were a whole lot of people that worked in rehab. And that, again, is kind of why the budget has done what it has. They can tell me, and I've been told, that at the department there was a time when there was 12 or more employees. As I mentioned, I said that we have 9 now, and 2 of them are half-time. We have 7 full-time. So as the membership has went down, we've not replaced people when they retire or leave. And when we do replace people and put them in a new job, they do not start at the same salary the person that left at. We put them in a lower salary. That helps the budget. I'll use myself as an example. The previous adjutant made a salary. I started as the new adjutant in 2009. Al Davis made that motion, and I filled in that end of that term for Lyle, who did a great job. But even today, to save money, my salary still isn't what it was of the previous adjutant who left in 2009. And that's just an example. We do that to try to save money on the overall budget. So talking about admin, we'll just cut back to it. 2002 to today, it hasn't changed. The same amount is being spent percentage-wise on admin. Now we talked about rehab. Rehab is the blue one. In 2002, there 11% of the budget was going to help the veterans through our resources there. In 2015, it is up to 15%. So there was a slight rise in the amount of the budget that goes to rehab, and rightly so. We talked about all of the folks coming back, the 30, 60, 90s, all of that started happening around 2002, 3, 4, and 5. We really ramped up services to veterans. Now, I mentioned also that we team up with the state of Minnesota. State of Minnesota employees have their personnel that provide services at the Henry Whipple building as well as up in Fargo. Part of that budget pays for every single piece of paper, every single piece of mail, all of the paperwork that is done to build a claim file, and that communication with the veteran, both out of the Fargo office for service to veterans in the northwestern part of the Minnesota, as well as out of the St. Paul office. All of that postage and paper is paid for out of the rehab budget, every bit of it. So that's where a lot of money goes to help support our veterans in the area of rehab. The next one up, as you'll see, the gray one represents the Legionnaire. How much was spent by the Legionnaire in relation to the entire budget in 2006? It was 21%. Today, 20% is spent on the Legionnaire. So Al has saved some money, as well as the Board of Publications, in relation to the overall amount of budget. Now, some of that is because we have less people to serve the paper to, but think about that. Again, we already talked about postages went up, cost of ink goes up. I assure you the cost of publishing the newspaper in all has went up, but that board and Al have had the opportunity and been successful in still holding those costs down. So I'm going to throw a plug in right here. If you haven't signed up for the American Legion electronically, that saves money. The more of you that receive it electronically, the less we pay on postage, printing, all of those things. We understand that you like to see it. So, and again, earlier I talked about how that is a positive thing. Channel 11, they show that thing all the time. They know that, so we still want some circulation of the actual paper, but we'd like to see more people online and choosing not to draw it, especially those of us that are actively involved, that go to conventions and conferences. And we talk to one another and we hear about those, what's going on with veterans by attending our different committee meetings and whatnot. Please consider signing on to the Legionnaire electronically, because it saves money for the budget. And lastly, across the top is the committees. How much is spent of the budget to help support committees? And you can see that in 2002, it looks like 25% was spent. And today, 2015, only 12% is spent. So there's been savings there as well. So I guess the end thing is I wanted you to see where the money comes from, where the money goes, how it's spent in those areas, and why that's important. I talked about department trying to do our own fundraising. People say, why are we paying Cotton Barton? Why are we paying Valley Printworks? Why are we paying Resource One through National to do our fundraising? Heck, Randy and Jennifer and all of, they can handle envelopes. They can just send out some envelopes. Well, if you remember, in the Legionnaire, Al, along with our commander, and I think it was Marlin, back in 2005, am I right? Was that Marlin's year? Or right close to, somebody's waving. Yep, Marlin. Marlon had a great idea. Let's put an envelope in the Legionnaire and let's ask people to help support the organization that way. And it was great. Look, $47,000 come from that. The next year it went down to 25. 2007, it bumped up a little bit, but then boom, people got tired of opening the Legionnaire and that envelope falling out. Oh, you're asking me for money again. Because again, we were asking ourselves. We need to get away from ourselves and start asking others that aren't members yet. And oh, by the way, if you want to make a donation to the world's largest and strongest organization, how about becoming a member as well? And that's what Resource One is going to do for us. They're going to ask non-members for donations, and at the same time ask them to be a part of our organization through DMS, which our membership people know is a good thing, because we'll bring them eventually into the Department of Minnesota and into our posts. We'll take a look at the amount that was spent, how much come from dues and how much come from, in relation to income, from other sources like LIT and USAA. And again, remember, those other sources, the department staff work to manage those relationships. So that's part of my job, Al, Laura, we sit down in the finance committee and we look at those outside sources. So back in 2002, 90% of our need was covered by the dues of the members of the organization in Minnesota. Only 10% did we have to go out and raise additional funds. And the organization really is set up, it's a dues organization, that your operations should be paid for by dues. And pretty much in 2002, we were able to cover all but 10%. By 2008, it had increased to 11% from outside sources and 89% having to be supported by dues. 2015, we're beyond the quarter mark. 74% comes from dues and 26% comes from outside sources. So we're having to work harder. Now remember, I told you the staff number of staff that are working, there's less of us. Some of us have disabilities, some don't, we're getting older. At some point, we're gonna have to hire more people to help do what we do, because if we keep doing more, we're gonna need more of that admin piece. So, here we go, review. As membership has decreased, so has income received from dues to run the operations. You just seen it. Admin costs, paper, postage, office furniture, machines, computers, AV equipment, all have risen significantly over the past 10 years. Staff have retired, some have not been replaced. When replaced, they start at a much lower salary than the previous staff member they're replacing. Revenue enhancement has increased. We've worked harder to go to outside sources to raise more money to help pay the bills that we have. So the staff are the ones that work on that, along with the finance committee on those endeavors with MNDVA grant, USAA, and others. This helps compare losses or compensate for loss in revenue due to our lowering membership than the number that we get from dues. We don't like to have to ask for a dues increase. Okay, who gets what part of the pie? We looked at that. Despite the rising cost of admin, the same percent of the budget is used today in the area of admin, 43%. Hasn't risen in since 2002. The same amount of the pie goes to run the operation. Because we don't replace staff as they leave, new staff take lower salaries, we try to renegotiate contracts that are better for repair of our equipment, we look for good deals on equipment. Despite lessening contributions to the newspaper, the Legionnaire, Al has actually saved 1% since 2002. So the amount of the budget that goes to the Legionnaire has went down by 1% in the last 10 years. The cost to run the committees, you too, as volunteers, have saved. Many times, I and a commander will sit in on a committee, and when it comes that time to read, okay, the mileage is, the per diem for this meeting is, oftentimes, Legionville is an excellent example, although they're a separate corporation, they're not a part of this money, but a lot of times, somebody will make the motion, I want to lower that to 30 cents. So the committees are doing everything they can too as well to try and lower the cost or the expense to the committees. And over the last several years, the committee costs have, I think I got rehab in there. Rehab, again, because of the war, went up 4%. Obvious, we're taking care of veterans. And as I mentioned earlier, the cost to run the committees has went down, I think, about 2 or 3%. All right, in closing, we have cut administrative costs over the past 10 years by doing much more with less staff at a lower salary cost to the department. The amount spent on admin today, dollar for dollar, is less than was spent at the department in 2006. And you've seen the figures. Those figures were certified. They have been, that all come from our accountant, and Roger Myron put the slides together with what we get from John Tower and Associates. They're the company that oversees our finance, and they're another set of eyes that are required to make sure we're doing the right thing. We have trimmed committee expenses. We've increased income from outside sources. We at the staff, we're working hard to keep those relationships with USAA, relationships with LIT. Thank you very much to our National Assistant Vice National Executive Committeeman, Bill. You're doing a great job there. We've cut and lowered, we've trimmed every year since 2006. Now we're at the point to make a decision during this convention as to whether or not we need to raise our dues. Will you decide to cut even more? And if you do cut on the staff side, we're gonna have to find a way to get all this stuff here, get it set up. Because with technology, we wanna be able to have screens. That's new to you. That's only since 2006. Thank you again to a past commander who said we need to bring technology. We need to have these Proxima projectors. We need to have a good microphone. Past national commander, thank you. Pushing that. We had to have this. It's good. Who can hear really good? I bet everybody out there can hear us pretty good right now because we got a good microphone. We got a good system. Those things cost a little bit of money. So ask yourselves, are you willing to cut out more? Or are you willing to pay a few more cents per day on an annual basis? Again, we're not asking for that dues increase every single month. That's over a whole year we're asking. Annual dues to remain a member are the most powerful veteran service organization in the world. Remember, we provide service to 52% of Minnesota veterans, the American Legion. Thank you for listening. Does anyone have questions? I'll field questions at this time, those that I cannot answer. I know we have some experts in the audience that could do that. Any questions? Thank you, and I hope your decision today is a wise one that does what's best for Minnesota's veterans and the organization, the American Legion. Thank you.
I asked Randy to put that together, and I'm glad that he did. As I traveled around the department this year, I observed a lot of concern overdues. We just had a $5 increase to national, and it's on the mind of a lot of our members. I hope that explains to you a little better way exactly where our money's coming from and where it's going. And thanks again to Randy and Roger and the staff for putting all that together this morning. Next, we will have a report from our American Legion Foundation by Lloyd Recker.
Good morning. Thank you, Commander. Good morning. Who's sleeping out there after that presentation? I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota American Legion Foundation. I'm sure you've seen our brochure we had out in the last year. It's a new brochure. We're very proud of it, and we're going to be doing more and newer stuff with it in the future. First of all, I'd like to introduce our board, the members present. If they would stand, I would appreciate it. Bruce Cottom. Wayne Jr. Hammond from the first. Wayne? Okay, he's back there. Dennis DeLong, he's right up in front here. John Grams from the fourth. John's right up here. Yeah, they're close to us today, Commander. We're in trouble. Also part of that board is our department commander, Mr. Kellogg, and our immediate past department commander, Peggy Moon. Laura Weber is our finance liaison, who does an excellent job. First, the good news, we met Wednesday, and we're making a $25,000 donation on behalf of the foundation or the Minnesota American Legion, to $5,000 each to each veterans home in Minnesota. And that will be helping veterans. They will put in, they will write exclusively what they're going to use that money for. We aren't just handing them a check. We want to know what they're going to do with it to help the veterans in their homes. Since we had this brochure out, we've gotten good donations, but there's one in particular I would like to recognize. Mel Biesler, is he in the audience? Mel, right over there. Oh. Okay, stand. I'm sorry. That guy stood up and you kind of look alike. So you're both gray, but you got a bigger beard, I guess. Mel helped, how should I say, helped get the foundation some money from another foundation. Mel's cousin started the foundation, and I want to take the time to read about this other foundation, but Mel was, him and his nephew, I believe, were the only board members left on this foundation. Gave the foundation $28,000. And I think we need to give Mel for help sheltering us that money. The foundation where the money came from was the John and Catherine Biesler Foundation, was established by John Biesler, MD, who was Emeritus Founding Dean of Medical School and Emeritus Founding Vice President for Health Affairs, Health Science, and Texas Tech Health Sciences University, and his wife, Catherine. That's unique, but I want to tell you, Mel, in honor of his cousin, I want to read a little history on his cousin, John. Because of John's military service in 3 wars, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, he was a well-decorated. As a second-year medical student, John Biesler volunteered for the Army and served on active duty in World War II as a private first class in the Army specialized training program. As the first lieutenant medical corps, he subsequently served as a hospital train railroad command unit. In other words, the train went around and did medical work. Towards the end of, in Europe, that train was, towards the end of World War II, he served as a battalion surgeon. He again served as the Pennsylvania Air National Guard in the Korean conflict and as commander of a medical group and later as chief of ophthalmology in the Air Materials Command. In the Army in Vietnam, and this is really exciting for me, in the Army and Vietnam conflict, he was an Army senior flight surgeon and a Special Forces Colonel, Green Beret, serving as a Special Projects Officer in South Vietnam for the Secretary of Defense. He organized and conducted a study of the U.S. medical evacuation system, also called medevac. And if anybody was in Vietnam, and still today, medevac is a big thing. He gets credit for organizing that, which helped establish the current helicopter medical evacuation system in place today. While in Vietnam, he was the senior ranking Special Forces officer in the theater. And we want to thank Mel for allowing us or giving us the money in honor of his cousin. Thank you again, Mel. In addition to the money to the foundation, the Biesler Foundation gave, and I'll let Wayne maybe cover that a little bit, $5,600 to Legionville. We have some another exciting news. I had a phone call about a month and a half ago from Jeff Olson, who is part of the national celebrating our 100th anniversary here in Minneapolis National Convention, and wanted to know if we were open to them raising money for us. And of course, at first I was a little skeptical because people don't usually call up and says, hey, we're going to be giving you money and raising money. We of the board definitely are excited about that because we're talking about substantial money being raised for the Minnesota American Legion Foundation through the Convention Corp of the 100th anniversary. So we of the foundation want to thank the Convention Corp of the 100th anniversary for looking at us and helping us in Minnesota raise money for the foundation. We are setting up 2 new codes of the 28,000, and these are the codes in the back which can be used for gambling. The new code, part of the 28,000, Mel preferred that we put 8,000 in a new code called Junior Shooting Sports, which is a hell of a program. If you ever got time, look at it at the national organization. It's a new youth program. I don't know how new it is, but we are in its infancy in Minnesota, and he felt that it's very important for our youth that the post in the American Legion in Minnesota get involved with the junior shooting sports. So again, we want to thank him, but that'll be code number 97. 97, right, Wayne? 90? 90, okay, thank you. Code 90, so if you want to give to junior shooting sports, keep code 90. 97. Okay, I said I had the numbers backwards. We're gonna get it right yet, and we're in. Thank you. And in addition, we have also set up a code of 100. And 100 will be used for the anniversary fundraising that they will be doing in our behalf. So I just want to make sure we will be coming out with a new Bruce share with that information in. I would also like to thank Randy, our adjutant, and Laura, who has helped us tremendously on the board, and the whole staff for the help. Whenever you call the department, they help you tremendously. At that, I'd like to complete my report, Commander.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next, we'll call on.
Wait. Minor details.
Minor detail.
We have a small check, Commander, a presentation to the foundation. I'm sorry. A small check. Now look at this. If that's a small check, come on up front. Come way up front so we can see you in the light.
And this is from?
Post 282 at St. Louis Park,
Tell them how much.
$32,000. Signed by the membership, Post 282. Now, it's gonna be in pieces, and I gotta get the pieces to the commander right now.
One check at a time.
One check at a time. There you go, Tom. Okay, Commander, the first check is for the Disaster Relief Fund, $2,500.
Thank you.
The Veterans Outdoor Program, $4,000.
Thank you.
And I also might add that Post 282 is over the last 11 years given $14,000 to that program through the National Wild Turkey Federation.
Awesome.
Family Hospital Fund, $1,000.
Thank you.
Legion School Safety Patrol, $2,000. Hospitalized Veterans Programs, $2,500. Oh, this is Commander's Fund, $10,000. And for all you riders, the Legion Legacy Scholarship Fund, $10,000. Oh, and by the way, anybody that's the parade manager for the districts, you should be in the 10th District Caucus Room right now for a meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could make one more good news announcement, Boise State had a Samsung winner that we submitted to national, and we'll know the results in fall conference, but it's James Libby from St. Michael, sponsored by St. Louis Park again, 282.
Thank you. Mr. Pancake, report on V for B, please.
Thank you very much, Commander. I'd just let Jeremy get her caught up here. He does a great job down there, and he's got to find 1,000 files on that computer. And by gosh, thank you, Jeremy. There we go. Minnesota Veterans for Veterans Trust Fund. And a lot of you know what it is, and I'm going to just briefly hit on what it is. But Marlon Ronning of the 10th District, Marlon is the treasurer of the Veterans for Veterans Trust Fund. It's a board of directors. It's not a committee, it's a board of directors. It's what we've been appointed to, and we try to serve on it. Help me, make me work. Go, Jeremy. Can you make it go up one? There we go. I probably skipped 4 or 5 now. The V for V was established, as you can see on the screen, in 2006. And it was all done under a state statute, and that statute number, I have to read it because it's important. It was 197.133. Don't write it down unless you know, it's not a phone number. But we sold Big Island Youth Veterans Camp in Lake Minnetonka. And the camp sold for $5.7 million to the city of Orono. After the realtors got paid, all the legal got done, we wound up with $5.1 million, which went into a trust fund, which was then named the Veterans for Veterans Trust Fund. Help me out. Oh, Randy handed me this thing, so anything is possible. Take care of me. Bring me up there. I'd rather you took care of it anyway. You're so much better at this. But I don't need it, Randy. I'm good. Who we are. Who is the Veterans for Veterans Trust Fund? It's 8 members of a board of directors of each of the veteran service organizations, 2 from each, the American Legion, the Minnesota Order of Purple Heart, the DAV, and the VFW. And the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs is there and oversees our meetings. The American Legion, Don Pancake, Marlon Ronnie. The DAV, Dean Ashman is our current chairman. I was the chairman last year. Then Dean is our chairman this year. Hank Sadler, lives in LeSueur, is the secretary. Al Holton from Wabasha is a member. Bill Cochran of Eden Prairie. Jerry Tews represents, of course, the VFW, and Tom Tweet in Minneapolis is the VFW. I'll just go a little bit on the grant history. People want to know, since VIAT was incurred, we've given out 190 applications since 2006, and in the process of refining those awards. We always are looking and refining because we get grants that we can't possibly go with. We don't build buildings, we don't fix kitchens and legions, we don't do those type of things. But we've given out $1.5 million in grants since the fund was incurred, which, as you can see, is 112 awards of right now, and the average is about $13,000. Now, out of that original 5.1 million, as of our last meeting, because the market goes into fluctuations, we were at 5,038,000. As of today, we're at about 5,150,000. So we've given out $1.5 million of that original money, and we still got what we started with. So that fund is managed very well by Wells Fargo and the board of directors, and we try with 3% of $5 million. We have roughly $150,000, sometimes $200,000 a year to work with, and we can spend part of the original principal, and sometimes we're forced to do that, but we don't always want to do it. The award breakdown, as you can kind of see here a little bit how we do it. It's all over the spectrum, but 23% of those awards were direct assistance to veterans. The MACV, that type of thing, 23%, or 375,000. Those are what we call outreach. 10% is for capital projects. Some of that is like, for instance, Camp Ripley Museum. We kind of stay away from capital projects, but Camp Ripley Museum is a big deal. We've been given $45,000. We gave them $15,000 a year over 3 years. 10% transportation projects, or $200,000. I have a breakdown of these coming up a little bit. 14% for therapy, hospice, adult daycare, and medical. 10% for recreation. 10% for jobs training and recognition. Now, flip on the next slide there, Jeremy. Kick over that one, please. You can see Wells Fargo handles it. The web page is up there on how to apply for grants. It's about 7 or 8 pages you have to fill out, and it's quite intricate on filling it out. But really, you don't have to know that web page, all that address, HTTP, blah, blah, blah. It's just look up Minnesota V for V. The web page is there, and you'll go right into it, and it's a pretty interesting what we do. Pick me up to the next one, Jeremy. Just this month, we gave out a grant to ARS Bellum Foundation, and it was, believe it or not, it was for art therapy. It's like, wow. And when this came to us on the board, we kind of sat around and they told us what they wanted. Then after dinner, we have a little lunch, and after dinner, we discuss these grants. And we like, what in the world? Art therapy. Well, then we started talking with the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs, Larry Schletto, and we find out that post-traumatic veterans, brain injury veterans, have been coming into these clinics. They've set them up, and they have psychiatric people and these veterans. They just take and they say, just paint what you're thinking, and they can analyze. These guys come out with things out of their minds, and they start analyzing, and it helps release that venom. Minnesota Military Foundation. That's a direct assistance. So what that is every year, and we do not support golf tournaments, but every year there's a golf tournament that Tom Lyons, who just received an award. They run that. And it's a big fundraiser, and 3M and corporate gets into this, and we told them we've been invited to go golf. We don't do that. But we'll put money into this foundation, and it's for direct assistance for veterans, and it's basically run by the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs. So that money gets channeled through there, but that's what it goes for. Veterans Recreation Training on the bottom there. We gave a check this year for $90,000 to the Ripley projects, which is the turkey hunt, the deer hunt, and the fishing in the summer, the disabled veterans fishing. And that money used to have to come, the Legion, the VFW, the DAV, Purple Heart, had to always try to figure out how to raise the money to house these veterans up there when they came up to fish and hunt and that type of thing. Plus, we bought all of the stands. They got electric deer stands, and that they use up in the woods, and they got turkey stands, and we bought all of that for this program. Yes, that $90,000, Marlon, was a 3-year grant. It's $30,000 per year. And as they incur the expenses, they submit it to us. And this year, they actually only used about $25,000 of that, but it's a $90,000 grant given to them. Minnesota State Veterans Home. You want to kick me over, Jerry? Yeah, you got it. Okay. We bought buses for the Minneapolis Veterans Home for their daycare. We helped buy bus for the Fergus Falls. And of course, I have the blinds and the county service officers. We support to help pay for schooling for classes for county veteran service officers. And we're working on one of our outreach things that we're looking into the future is we also help purchase the van for northwestern Minnesota. There's a bus up there that brings, where the counties bring into a central, and then that goes down to the VAs. We did that for northwestern Minnesota. We helped buy the one for northwestern Minnesota. And now we're looking at supporting a program for southeastern part of the state. And that's in the talking and funding, but we've told them when you come together and make up what you're going to do, we'll be there to help you. Kick me over another one. As you can see, the Armed Services Center, you can read it up there, but furniture replacement, couches, refrigerators, the Black Veterans of America Foundation, Black Veteran Outreach. We helped buy the bus, replace the bus for the rifle squad at Fort Snelling. And the Freedom Farm in Waverly for female veterans, and quite frankly, there's a lot of female veterans that are coming to this, and they actually associate and they work with horses. And it's, some of these gals have been coming in there, they're just very into themselves, and they start working with these animals, and it just really works for them. Our V4V fund, I think, is one of the biggest wings that bangs for the buck that our organizations have. You know, if you take this, you take the total budget of the American Legion is only a few $1,000,000 every year, and we're messing around and we're budgeting and we're managing this $5 million. I think it's a wonderful thing that you have that. I'm honored to have been elected or appointed to that board of directors. Marlon's been on it for a number of years. And Commander, that's, unless there's any questions about anything, or I can take it in the back because we're a little bit behind time. But Marlon, anything? And Commander, thank you very much. And anything that's on the website, go to the V4V website and go for it. It's there. We'll help you.
Great report. Jim Munson for our brain science report.
Good morning. As one of the 4 pillars of the American Legion, rehabilitation is very important to our organization. And one of a big factor in rehabilitation is brain science. It is constantly changing. It is constantly evolving. We're learning more and more. One of the great things that have come about from the Brain Science Foundation is at the University of Minnesota and the VA Medical Center, with the help of the American Legion, founded a funding chair. That chair was presented, and we've been able to strive for very important things such as post-traumatic stress syndrome, Alzheimer's, alcoholism, memory and learning, control of movement. And I guess the blessings that we got from this, a lot of times we don't really realize how good we have it, or how someone would envision this thing would go with the brain science. But a person that really stepped forward on this is our past national commander, Dan Ludwig. And I'd ask him to make an introduction for us, please. Good morning.
You know, it's really fitting that we're gathered here in the heart of a major medical center of the world. The Minnesota American Legion is proud to be honoring someone whose contributions to medical science are legendary. Way back in June of 1944, in Patras, Greece, a young lad was born. He graduated from the University of Athens School of Medicine as a medical doctor in 1968, and he received his PhD in physiology the next year. He served in the Greek Army at the Medical Research Center from 1969 to 1971. He became an assistant professor at the University of Athens Department of Physiology. And in 1972, he became a research associate and then associate professor of neuroscience and physiology. In 1986, he immigrated to the United States and became a professor of neuroscience at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. And then in 1991, after a nationwide search, he was chosen to be the American Legion Chair in Brain Sciences. The Brain Science Chair was created in the late 1980s and early 1900s by the Minnesota American Legion and the Auxiliary. We raised over $1 million for that position, And it came at a time when so many American veterans are suffering from brain injuries and disorders. The Brain Sciences Chair demanded a dynamic trailblazer who could lead a department in cutting-edge medical research into the mysteries of the brain. In addition to the chair, Dr. Georgopoulos was also named Director of Brain Sciences Center, a professor of physiology at the University of Minnesota Medical School. That announcement was exactly 25 years ago. It was a bold challenge for the Legion, for the university, for the VA, and it was also a bold challenge for a 47-year-old medical doctor from Greece. Dr. Georgopoulos began pulling together a team. His own special project was research into ways that veterans could operate a prosthesis simply by using commands from the brain. And then in 2001, a major event happened at the Brain Sciences Center at the VA hospital. It acquired through a federal grant a MEG neuroimaging instrument. In my script, MEG is an acronym, of course, and in my script is the full word that MEG represents. And unfortunately, I am not capable of pronouncing that. The MEG is a rare state-of-the-art instrument that can look inside the brain and its activity. There are only a handful of such machines in the world. Using the MEG along with other non-invasive imaging machines, such as a functional MRI, the scientists at the Brain Science Center have been able to make remarkable breakthroughs in understanding and early detection of post-traumatic stress, Alzheimer's, alcoholism, schizophrenia, and many other diseases. Exciting breakthroughs for veterans have been published in major medical journals around the world. The Brain Sciences Center has most recently been working on studies in how brains can be resilient and can recover quickly from trauma. The project incorporates two other studies, the Women's Healthy Brain Project and the Women's Veterans and PTSD Project. The research has been extraordinary. Dr. Georgopoulos himself has published 192 papers in medical publications over the years and around the world. His team of scientists have published many more. The American Legion's investment in the Brain Sciences Chair has paid dividends far beyond what we could have foreseen 25 years ago. In addition, each year the Legion funds 2 scholarships for graduate students, making sure that great young minds can continue this important work. We are so grateful that the work of the Brain Sciences Center will continue under the vision of Dr. Georgopoulos. A couple of weeks ago, Dr. Georgopoulos was honored at the VA Hospital Center in Minneapolis for his quarter century of service, and the American Legion was on hand to help celebrate that amazing career. But now it's our time to pay respect to Dr. Georgopoulos on the occasion of his 25th year as the American Legion Brain Sciences Chair. Under his leadership, the Brain Sciences Center has become a national hub of research to help veterans. And it is my great pleasure to introduce to you today a man with many titles. The Director of Cognitive Research at the University of Minnesota, the McKnight Presidential Chair of Cognitive Neuroscience, and the Regents Professor at the University of Minnesota. But here in the Minnesota Legion, we prefer his first title, and the one that made all the others possible. The one that propelled historic research in the study of the brain, the American Legion Brain Science Chair. So please give a rousing and warm welcome as we celebrate 25 years of amazing service and dedication to veterans and their health. I give you Dr. Apostolos Georgopoulos.
it's really the first standing ovation I have had in my life, and I'm very grateful to you. But I think I deserve it. Well, it has been an honor and a huge privilege to serve you as you can think of me as a chief brain scientist of the American Legion. And it was a difficult move to move here from Johns Hopkins University, but it was a wonderful move. And the most important aspect of it is that, we're really producing results towards understanding, brain function and dysfunction in projects specifically tailored to veterans' health. So over the years, and with the use of the magnetoencephalography, this fantastic, unique instrument, and MRI and other facilities, we have been targeting essentially 2 or 3 major, aspects of brain science at the Brain Science Center. One has to do with disease, and the other has to do with health. So on the disease front, we have a whole division hard working on mental health issues as post-traumatic stress disorder and Alzheimer's disease, as well as depression and associated comorbidities. We have made quite a bit of advances there. We have a diagnostic to detect the presence of post-traumatic stress disorder. And all of this has been published, well acclaimed, as a biomarker, of brain function or dysfunction in PTSD. On the neurological front, we have been concentrating on diseases that are again prevalent in veterans populations, like the multiple sclerosis, and more recently on the amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And actually also looking more recently on brain dysfunction in conditions of more medical conditions like autoimmune brain diseases, like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and psoriasis and so on and so forth. So as far as the brain goes on disease, I think we're covering, most of what is there, to be covered. There is another focus that we had more recently, the last few years, and that is very different. And that is concentrating on brain function in Gulf War syndrome. So I don't know how many of you served in the first Gulf War. As you would know, there was quite a bit of symptomatology and dysfunctions that developed that were presented to veterans served in the first Gulf War. Quite a bit, actually, a large number of veterans were affected. Still of unknown etiology, as it affects multiple systems. We have muscle pain and chronic fatigue, but most importantly, cognitive and mood dysfunction in the brain has been very debated over 25 years whether there exists or not. But we have been very productive in that sense. I think we have shown that yes, it is a brain disorder, and that I think we understand basically what is happening. There seems to be an autoimmune base to it. We're funded by the Department of Defense to carry out, that research. And as we speak, we're one of the 3 sites, I think, in the US that we're on a phase 3 trial for the Gulf War illness using coenzyme Q10 that we hope it will help, especially on the muscle pain and the fibromyalgia sort of type of symptom. Now, the other big item that we're doing research is on health, because ultimately we want to know how we age with a healthy brain, what may be the secrets that will keep us going as we advance in age. And as most of you, all of you know, chronological age has little to do with brain function, if that's of any good news to you. That is, if you were to put 2 people and you don't see them, and you can do any kind of testing, you're surprised to see how 90-year-old is indistinguishable from a 25-year-old. So the question is, how do you do that? So that is a very active program. It is specifically targeted for women veterans. Sorry for that, but it was started and funded by a group of of wealthy women in the Twin Cities that I solicited, and they just wanted to put the money on women. So it is very nice, another good example of a private initiative to the benefit of veterans. So we have studied now more than 450 women since 2010, and I think we know, my colleagues and I, wonderful colleagues, I think we know what is the secret. That is how do you manage to be in such sharp state as you grow older? What we're trying to find, which basically says, actually the discovery is that you have a way to keep your brain networks flexible. So as you grow, you get more and more experiences, and that tends to lock in you, to lock your brain to certain habits if you want, or certain ways of thinking in a more general sort of laypersonal way. But the people who really stay healthy and cognitively healthy and indistinguishable from young ones are those that somehow manage to keep their flexibility, to have maybe fewer cells, because we lose cells as we grow, but much more efficient, much more well-functioning. So what we're trying to find out now, what is the secret? How do you, is that what you eat? Is that what you exercise? Genetics plays a major role. And in parallel to this cross-sectional study, we're studying the same people every year. So we're now in our 5th year of looking, and what is interesting is that naturally, some people will develop some disorder, and then our ultimate goal is to forecast, be able to predict early on what may happen later. So that is, even if it is not disease-oriented, I think it's very important, and you can think of when the brain fails, it's some sort of disease manifestation. Well, I couldn't plan success without you. I mean, you veterans have been the very base and start and fuel, and goes beyond, yes, the original funds were tremendously important to start it all, but what to me personally has been tremendous inspiration and support, and is the dedication. Because I deal mostly with the brain sciences, American Legion Family Brain Science Foundation, and it just has been a fantastic experience and continuous, as I say, inspiration, support, and keeps me going. And I'm really very grateful to you all for helping achieve that. Thank you very much.
At this time, anyone having donations for brain science, please come forward. My commander's project this year was to help fund a grant to further the study of the relationship of pain and the functioning of the brain. Thanks to your generosity, I have a check here today for you, a mock check for $27,912. You just received another $10,000 to add to that, and I think there's some more waiting in the wings. So.
Hi, I'm Jules Efta, and my grandma, Mary Efta, over there. She would like to personally give a donation to your project.
Very generous. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, the amount not be told you, but anyway, thank you very, very much. It was a very generous donation. Side?
Commander, on behalf of the Crescent Post 595, we got a $200 for your project.
Thanks, Side.
You betcha.
Very much appreciated.
Commander, I'm Roland Hanson, Commander of 1st District. My project was brain science, and thankful for all my comrades in my district. We present you $1,000.
Thank you so much.
Commander Pancake, yeah, but that meant something. Commander, on behalf of Post 545, a check for $500 for you.
Thank you so much. I believe the Brain Science Committee now has a presentation for the doctor in recognition of his 25 years.
On behalf of 25 years of tremendous service to the American Legion and to all of our veterans, thank you very much.
Open it, go ahead. Sue Nunley is here representing the American Legion Auxiliary as a committee member this morning. And our committee is made up of Legion Auxiliary and SAL members, so it's the American Legion family all together working. No. That could be a trick.
Round of knowledge.
Put your bottle up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. And thank you, Commander, for the opportunity to have Dr. Giannopoulos come forward here and explain in much better terms than what any of us could ever do. So thank you very much for the opportunity to serve with you.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to call on Marie Gady for the report on the American Legion Family Hospital Association, which we are all part of by way of our dues.
Thank you. Commander Jim, delegates, alternates, and guests, good morning. Welcome to the great First District. Yes. First of all, I want to introduce my husband, Bill, because I'm not going to give Jim Kellogg a penny. Over the years, we've probably given him enough. Board members who have served this past year are Dennis Blue, Nick Kakis, Marlon Ronning, Roger Stork, Jan Walker, Department President Sandy Frederickson, Department Commander Jim Kellogg, and SAL Commander Gene Oswald, and myself. The Minnesota American Legion Hospital Association was organized as a result of action taken by its 4th annual department convention in 1922 to provide financial assistance to World War I veterans who needed specialized medical care, but lacked funds to pay for such care. Following World War II, the service of associations were accorded to veterans of that conflict and subsequently to veterans of the Korean War, Vietnam War, etc. In 1961, the department commander, auxiliary president, and Department Legion finance chairman were added to the board. In 1979, the eligibility rules were amended to make auxiliary members eligible for assistance. At that time, the name was changed to the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary Hospital Association. In 1993, at the annual meeting of the association at the department convention in Bloomington, it was voted to limit assistance to members of the American Legion Hospital Association and to provide for the payment of hospital and doctor bills incurred during hospitalization, inpatient or outpatient. at any duly licensed hospital within or adjacent to the state of Minnesota. So that doctor bills previously not included are now included, as the bills incurred at local hospitals, not just for those specialized care at certain medical centers. In 1999, action was taken to add the Sons of the American Legion into the association, and with their financial contribution, the same as the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary. It was also voted to include one SAL member to the board. The name of the association was again changed to the American Legion Family Hospital Association. In 2004, the membership voted to add the Sons of the American Legion Detachment Commander to the board and remove the American Legion Finance Chairman. The fiscal year of the association was to end each year on July 31st. The annual meeting of the association was changed from the department convention to the department fall conference to begin in 2009. And that is because the SAL does not meet at the department convention, but they meet at fall conference. All members of the association and their dependents, regardless of their place of residency, are eligible for benefits provided by the association, provided they have been a member in good standing for 12 months prior to the application. By a dependent is meant one who receives his or her entire support from the member and is not eligible to belong to the American Legion, Auxiliary, or the Sons of the American Legion. The auxiliary the association does not pay for the following: transportation to and from the hospital unless by ambulance, hotel, motel bills for anyone accompanying a patient unless an attendant is deemed necessary and authorized by the association, telephone bills incurred by the patient, personal service, hearing aids, eyewear, chiropractic service, dental work, medical supplies or prosthesis, prescriptions. How do I get an application? How do I apply? You can obtain an application in 3 ways. Print the application from the American Legion Department of Minnesota website, or call the Department Legion headquarters, or contact your post or county Veterans Service officer. How do you know that you've completed all the required paperwork? Ensure that you have completed these following items. You have filled out the application completely. You have included copies of your current medical bills. You have signed the bottom of the application, given the association, and by association, I am talking about our comptroller, Roger Myron. Permission to discuss your medical bills with the provider of medical service. You have mailed the application and copies of the medical bill to the address on the application. I want to reassure you that everything on that application is strictly confidential, with the only one knowing who you are is Roger Myron, who does our negotiating with medical facilities and trying to lower the bills or going over the paperwork with the individual applicant. When we receive these and the board as a vote to vote for them, we only receive the medical information. We do not receive any names. So if you're not applying because of identity, don't let that stop you. Like I said, Roger Myron is the only one that knows who you are. The American Legion Hospital Association report was in the Legionnaire, so I'm not going to repeat that. And a complete fiscal report will be provided to the American Legion Auxiliary, and the SAL at our annual convention held at the fall conference in Marshall, Minnesota. And I do not have the dates, but watch the Legionnaire for the time and place of when our annual meeting will be. At that time, Marlon Ronning so the Legion will need to elect a member to the board because Marlon is a Legion rep and his term is up for re-election. Special thank you to Roger Myron and Laura Weber for they work so hard for the association. Commander Jim, thank you for allowing me time on this busy schedule, I'm sorry you're behind, to speak on the Hospital Association, of which you are all members by your membership in the Legion. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Marie. Appreciate it. Got a couple of announcements that need to be made. We live here in a democracy. A vote was taken by the parade chairman from the 10 districts. And as a result, overwhelmingly, results are that we will not be having a parade this evening. It's just too tough out there. And, thank you all for your input. I ask those of you who need to make calls, you're excused at this time. I know the Legion Riders really need to know this information. So if we have any of those people here in the room, please spread the word like now. And we're taking care of it for the city here and making those announcements. Listen carefully though. The hotel needs time to change that room over where the hospitality will be this evening. Please give them the time. Hospitality is set up for 7 p.m. Please honor that. And thank you for that. In addition to what Marie just said, when we had our meeting yesterday afternoon, Commander Oswald came up with a very interesting way of promoting the American Legion Family Hospital Association and membership. Take a quarter and tell that prospective member for 25 cents, I can get you $3,000 worth of medical coverage, along with all the great benefits of being an American Legion member. So keep that in mind, and it's a great membership tool. I also have a district commander's pin here that was turned in to us that was misplaced. There will be a red trolley and shuttle will be available out front at 11:45 to take past district commanders to the post for their luncheon. That came from Reed Overley. So at this time, we have Kathy. This time we'll ask Wayne Gilbertson to give us a report on Legionville. A great leader we have here.
Good morning. First of all, I want to tell you it's a great honor and privilege to serve as the Legionville president. It's a lot challenging, but it's also very rewarding. I want to thank everyone from last year when you were in Redwood Falls for all the donations that you were able to collect and send to Legionville. It allowed us to clean up the camp. It allowed us to put all the electrical underground. It allowed us to change out the outdated electrical boxes in the kitchen and the dorms to bring them up to code. We also were able to put new electrical outlets along the beach to bring them up to code so they're grounded properly. Several districts came up during work and play. They cleaned, they cut wood, they worked on the mowers. I thank that and we appreciate them for that. We had 2 Eagle Scouts this year that came out to Legionville and wanted to do a couple projects. One was tree planting. Fortunately, with the help of Carl Hendrickson from the 8th District, he had 1,400 trees shipped to Legionville, and we have 1,300 of those planted. We're saving 100 for when the auxiliary come up, so they can do their part also.
Equal opportunity.
Yes, got to keep it all together. The other Eagle Scout is going to be installing pavers with his dad, who owns a construction company, and that will happen this fall. At our spring Legionville board meeting, the board graciously approved the purchase of a used skid steer loader. with the help of Commander Jim and Roy, they were able to locate a couple of them. Commander went down to Iowa and checked out the one. We had that one shipped to Legionville, or up to Brainerd at the cat dealer, had it reworked. Came out to camp the first part of May. We've used it quite extensively. The board had allowed $50,000. We were able to purchase the skid steer with 3 different attachments for about $45,000. So it's been a great addition out there. We put it to good work. The guys that were up there cutting split wood, they used it quite extensively. As far as donation goes, as Lloyd alluded to earlier, Mel Bissler also got just a little over $5,600 donated to Legionville from that foundation also. So that is very much appreciated. Are there anybody that might have any donations for Legionville at this time? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Good.
For a picture when you want. Go ahead.
On behalf of the Dodge County Legion Council, we'd like to donate $150 for Legionville.
Gonna bring those guys up then. Oh, you're gonna know.
Mr. Gilbertson, I represent Post 167 in Wilmer. I bring you a check today made out to Legionville. This money represents veterans who belong to our post, served their country with honor and valor, but in the past year have passed away. So, Wayne, I present you a check.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go right over and
It's $370. We'll now have a special report by the SAL who has taken over the camporee at Legionville.
For many years, the American Legion has had the camporee at Legionville in September. They asked the Sons of the American Legion if we would be willing to take it over and carry on with the camporee in September. We said yes, we would. With that, I've got co-chairs Dennis Blue and Steve Sullivan, or as we all know him, Sully, to come up here and give you to date what we are planning, what has happened, and where it's going. So you guys want to come on up?
Good morning, Legionnaires and guests. There is 5 of us that are on this committee. It is Steve Sullivan, Cliff Tygeson, Sean Davis, Dave Vulcan, and me, Dennis Blue. We have done about 7 to 8 phone conference calls. We've done 3 in-person calls. Since we're scattered all over the Minnesota, it's kind of tough for us to meet. We already got our gambling going. We're gonna have bingo. We're gonna have pull tabs, and we're gonna have a 50-50 raffle, which will all be on board. We have entertainment, live entertainment this year. We're on Facebook. All the SAL membership packets got a brochure. The auxiliary received all their brochures this morning, and we have brochures for the Legion out now. If anybody would like any brochures, let me know. The brochures are donated, so we have no cost for that. We have the tickets for the rally up there donated for no cost for that. The Sons is gonna try to get everything donated. What we don't get donated, except for the music,
We're gonna try to get donated. We're working really hard on it. There's a lot to be done that we didn't know and we're learning. But as you know, the Suns, when they take over a project, we do it. We don't advertise our bad parts. It's just not good. So if anybody has any ideas or want anything or need to know anything, feel free. Or they want to help or volunteer, feel free. I'll be up there Wednesday morning and I'll be there for the whole week. If anybody needs anything, just get a hold of me. Registration's out there. We do not need pre-registration. It's first come, first serve. Anybody have any questions? Oh, that was.
What's going to be the charge on that?
No more than $75 a family. It's going to be an average of $10 a day.
Will it be $40 for 4 days?
Correct. Correct. And we're not charging for Tuesday or Wednesday. I hope to see everybody up there.
Thanks, Dennis.
We got the word, we're gonna have a fantastic camporee. Let's fill Legionville with tents, campers, you name it, kids. They've got a wonderful kid program going up there for it, so let's really promote this, get out in your communities, push it, in your posts and squadrons. Let's have a fantastic weekend at the camporee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commander, that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, for all you do.
Thank you.
Does a fantastic job for us up there. Mr. Stone, Veterans Pheasant Dinner.
Okay.
Commander Jim, fellow Legionnaires, it's great sadness that I come here this morning because I was asked to express deep, heartfelt sadness on the passing of Fuzz Martin a couple weeks back. A number of you were there. A number of you sent condolences to the family. Barbara Martin, Fuzz's widow, asked me to make sure that this was said today, to thank each and every one of you for the cards, the letters, the donations, and the support in the passing of Fuzz. So thank you on behalf of the Martin family. This past year, the 74th annual Hospitalized Veterans Pheasant Dinner Program was a great success. There were over 200 units, squadrons, posts, Voyagers, donations coming in this year. Also a few from outside agencies and companies. Over 1,600 pheasants were used to feed veterans in 14 hospitals and veterans homes around the state of Minnesota, one in South Dakota and one in North Dakota. Our total is down, but so is our membership, but we keep trying hard. I wish to thank Arnie Troe, Fuzz Martin, Don Amundson, and those that worked with me on this committee. And thank you, Commander, for the appointment. I promised to keep it short, and I did.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Joe Jansen will give us a report on our Armed Forces Service Center. Thank you.
With your permission.
That's fine.
We're not going to use the normal format for this report. We're running late, and two things that I hope you take back from the report. Number one, we thank all of you for the contributions you've made over the years and continue to make to the Armed Forces Service Center. We're operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have open to the retired veterans at this point in time. We are still allowing veterans to come in, but only to have beverages or a snack. We don't have room enough to have the veterans in for the bunks. We have 6 bunks for women and 20 bunks for men. Tuesday night, I was on the 8 to midnight shift, and we had all of the women's bunks taken up before 11 p.m. and half of the men's bunks. So we are active out there. We thank you for your contributions. And if perchance anyone would like to volunteer, please give me a call or go on our website, and we'll be happy to have more volunteers. We do 2 people per shift. Each shift is 4 hours. So if you'd be kind enough to ask your post to give us a call, we'll be happy to take volunteers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for all you do. Okay, now we'll go into our awards presentations. We have Maria has been here. Terry Burke. And this would be for the children and youth category.
Good morning. I'm going to cut my speech a little short. I'm not going to give you what I gave to the national. I'm just going to announce the winners of the awards. The category 1, 598 3M post from St. Paul. Category 2, 143 Arthur Emerson Big Lake. Category 3 is 580 Chanhassen. Category 4 is 96 Hutchinson. The Meritorious Service Awards. Category 1, 552 Gilmore Stensrud Freeborn. Category 2, 630 Brooklyn Center. Category 3, that's 303 Ferdley. And category 4, 428 Silver Star Waite Park. The Jim Oldenburg winner is James Beach. He's from the 1st District, post 552. We also awarded the Lloyd Drasnell a deal, and that's for the Anoka post, and I don't have the number, but 102. I will explain that one because this is only one applicant for the deal, and it was for shooting sports, and they've been doing it for a number of years, but they sent a national gal in, and she won a scholarship from it. That's what we need to do. Thank you.
Art. And this will be for the Americanism.
Thank you, Commander. First of all, I'd like to, there's 3 people on Americanism Committee, and just like to recognize the other 2 members. I'm the chairman, Larry Pockrick, over here, from Hibbing, and Mel Bessler from Hillman, Minnesota. There he is, way in the back. For those new here, and to refresh you, the Americanism Committee is made up of 8 subcommittees: the Boy Scouts, the Boys State, Oratorical, Junior Shooting Sports, School Patrol Safety, Education, Community Service, and the Junior Law Cadet Program, which is kind of in its infancy right now. So moving on, awards, the district awards, and Larry will have them over here, so either a post representative or a district representative would pick them up. First district goes to Hugh Watson, post 190, St. Charles, Minnesota. Second district, Erwin March, post 64, Slayton, Minnesota. Third district, Lowell Stender, post 601, New Germany, Minnesota. Fourth district, North St. Paul, post 39. Fifth district, Viking, post 493 in Bloomington. Sixth district, Walter Scott Erickson, post 557, Deerwood. Seventh district, Granite Falls, post 69. Eighth district, Walter Riley, post 307, Nashwauk. Ninth district, Nels T. Wold, post 20, Crookston. The 10th district, Frank H. Lundberg, post 282 at St. Louis Park. The Certificate of Distinguished Service goes to Bearcat Post 504 in Minneapolis. And the Certificate of Meritorious Service, the high one, goes to 3M Post 599 in St. Paul. And we also have Americanism helped out with the trophies and awards since that committee has been eliminated. The Joseph W. Finley Trophy for Americanism goes to the Edward Cotter Post 102 in Anoka. And the Americanism Trophy goes to, again, 3M Post 599, St. Paul. Thank you. Thank you, Commander.
Thank you, Art. Tess Davis, Education.
Okay, I am Tess Davis. I am the Education Chair, and I am here to give away the Hanson Education Trophy. We only had 2 applicants, so this wasn't real tough. In my decision, though, I gave it to the Gust E. Holden, Post 253, Lowry, Minnesota, out of the 7th District. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. James Buxton with the School Safety Patrol.
Commander, thank you. Annually, the School Safety Patrol Committee awards what's known as the Kaiserstadt Trophy. It's a Distinguished Service Award for someone who's provided exceptional leadership in the School Safety Patrol program. This year's award winner goes to a Legionnaire we all know. He came to the assistance of Legionville, a very important part of our program, when such leadership was needed. Unfortunately, we don't have the trophies today, but I can announce to you the winner. That's Don Pancake, past department commander. Don is in the audience. Also with a change last year as far as Trophies and Awards Committee was concerned, it's become incumbent on me and my responsibility to award the Boy Scout, or not the Boy Scout, but the School Safety Patrol Program of the Year Award. And this year, that goes to the Edward B. Cutter Post in Anoka. And again, that trophy will, that award will be presented in by mail. So with that, I thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Tom Conway, our Law and Order Chairman. Here he is. I'm gonna move those chairs up so we can take pictures. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. As you all know, Law and Order Committee is responsible for selecting the Law Officer of the Year, the Firefighter of the Year. This year we had a very good turn-in for applicants for the Law Officer of the Year, with 9 qualified candidates. And for the Firefighter of the Year, 2 candidates. I'd definitely like to thank all the posts that submitted these applications for this Law Officer and Firefighter. And I'd also like to thank my committee, Richard Abram and Jeff Brokaw, for helping in the selection of the officer this year. Our selection of the officer for the year came out of the 4th District, North End, St. Paul, Post 474. Anthony William Dean grew up in St. Paul and graduated from Central High School in 2001. While still in high school, he participated in a program called Upward Bound and is a mentor in this very program to this day. He joined the Marine Corps in 2003 and served until 2007 and remained on IRR until 2011. After his military career was completed, he attended classes from Minneapolis Community Technical College in law enforcement and completed his skills for a career in law enforcement in 2009 at the Center for Criminal Justice and Law Enforcement in St. Paul. Officer Dean was employed by the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office for 2 years, working as a correction officer in the law enforcement connex and as a jailer in the Ramsey County Workhouse. Officer Dean is currently assigned as patrol officer with the St. Paul Police Department in Central District. Officer Dean began his solo career roughly 1 year ago, and the patrol commander stated, in this year, Officer Dean has achieved what might take a career to do for other officers. Officer Dean has attended countless community events as a representative of both the department and the community in which his family lives, with his wife and 2 children. Officer Dean has served the St. Paul Police Department for 4 years and has received many letters of recognition for his police work and community work. Legionnaires, I present to you Law Enforcement of the Year, Anthony Dean.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever you consider it. Ladies and gentlemen of the Legion, of the Auxiliary, of the Sons, I feel very fortunate to be here, and I don't have to talk about service in this room because it's very humbling to be recognized by the Legion and to be such a young, in my career, police officer and have such a huge accomplishment already. The thing I wanted to speak about is opportunity, and I think that everybody in this room knows opportunity. I come from St. Paul and I'm a Sherburne Avenue kid, and there's been so many people that have invested in me. And so every single day that I wear this uniform, that I wore my uniform in the Marine Corps, that I wore my uniform at Ramsey County, I knew that I had to do right by the opportunity. Today, I have Assistant Chief Topol. I have my senior commander, Commander Winger. I have my partner, Officer Jutnan, and then I have my wife here. And I'm surrounded by people that make sure that I do right by the opportunities that I've been afforded and I've been provided. And so to receive an award like this, I think it is just further motivation to make sure that I do right by the opportunities. And so the junior cadet program I would love to participate in. Myself, I'm a member of the Legion, which I should have been previous to today, but they got me to sign up. And my wife has also joined the auxiliary too, because we have good recruiters. And so we'll make sure that we participate and we help to provide opportunities for others, because I certainly wasn't the best police officer, and I certainly didn't have all good days since I've started. I just have worked very hard to make sure that if somebody calls me and they need my service, that I give everything that I can give to them and try to make it better than I found it. To have me up here with a brain scientist and a young gentleman who is certainly going to be an elected official at some point, and then the heroes of the fire department are up here. So I feel like I'm in amazing company, and I thank you for sharing this moment with me.
Okay. Firefighter of the Year came out of the 8th District, nominated by Virginia Post 239. A 3-year veteran of the Clear Lake Fire Department, Ross Allen Grambling, is currently serving the Virginia Fire Department as a firefighter paramedic and is highly respected by his fellow firefighters. Since his first day of work, Grambling has showed that his commitment to the fire service and community is strong. Grambling's community service is Muscular Dystrophy Association's Fill the Boot for Jerry's Kids. The money raised is used to send these kids with muscular dystrophy to summer camp. Grambling also helps the Virginia Fire Marshal with fire prevention activities, which takes at least a month-long event because of the number of schools in the jurisdiction of the Virginia Fire Department. The Virginia Fire Department, and this really shocked me when I read this one. Virginia Fire Department also has 8 tactical paramedics that belong to the St. Louis County SWAT team, which Grambling is one of those. This means when someone has barricaded themselves in a house with or without hostages, or when deputies must serve high-risk warrants, or worse case, the community has a mass shooting. These 8 firefighter paramedics work alongside the SWAT team. Deputies to provide medical care for wounded or injured police officers, along with the citizens in the hot zone while the incident is still active. The dedication to the fire department and the community has earned him to be named Firefighter of the Year in 2015 by his fellow firefighters. Legionnaires, I present to you Firefighter of the Year, Ross Allen Grambling.
Well, I don't know what to say. I'm very humbled, honored to be here. I'm going to keep it short. It's hard to follow all the great speeches that we've already heard. So I'd just like to say thank you to everyone that's made the ultimate sacrifice, gave their life, those that have served and currently are serving. I'd also like to thank my family, my father, Brian, my mother, Carlene, my girlfriend, Tara, my Chief Alan Lewis, my battalion chief who wrote the letter to nominate me, Kevin Poffs, and my captain, Joel Martinson, who have influenced me so much as far as helping out the community and coming to work and just doing your job. I don't believe that I should have received this because I just go to work and do my job. That's how I feel, but I am honored and humbled to be up here receiving this because I feel that there are a lot of people that do way more above and beyond than what I do, but for me to be recognized means so much to me. So thank you, everyone. Thank the American Legion. Thank you, everybody here today.
Is there someone here from the North End Post 474? Or you come up, I'll present you with your plaque. And also, is there anybody from Virginia Post 239? Where? Oh, okay. Commander, that concludes my report. Thank you very much for the appointment. Glad serving you.
Thanks for all your hard work. Appreciate it. Tom Sanders, Bud Chairman.
Morning.
Well, my report is published in the Legionnaire, but I do have our certificates, and this young man right down here will be handing them out as I call out the post. A post or a representative of the district will please come and get them. Janesville Post, in District 1, Janesville Post 281. In District 1, Gittins Vital Post 595. District 1, Hugh Watson Post 190. I have no report from the 2nd District. 3rd District, first place is Montgomery Post 79. Second place, Forest Lake Post 225. Third place, Manthe Osmus Post 433, Gaylord. From the 4th District, I have North St. Paul Post 39. Second place, I have 3M Post 599. Third place, I have the North End Post 474, St. Paul. Out of the 5th District, I have Minneapolis Richfield Post 435. Second place, Minneapolis Post 1. In third place, University of Minnesota Post 548. In the 6th District, I have Ben Kruger Post 49, Pequot Lakes. Second place, I have William T. Lewis Post 12, Long Prairie. In third place, I have Billy Brown Post 627, Nisswa. The 7th District, first place is Austin F. Hanscom Post 167, Wilmer. Second place, I have William Krensing Post 58 from Browns Valley. And in third place, I have Marietta Post 156, Marietta. In the 8th District, I have McVeigh Dunn Post 60, Grand Rapids, first place. Second place, I have Carl Anderson Post 262, Cloquet. And then in the third place, I have Quail Schuster Post 241, Aurora. In the 9th District, first place, I have Irvin Blix Post 16, Bagley. In second place, I have East Grand Forks Post 157. In third place, I have New York Mills Post 116. And in the 10th District, first place, Biddy Humphreys Post 323, Clearwater. Second place, I have Woodcock Herbst Post 216, Princeton. And in third place, I have Delano Post 377, Delano. That concludes my report. Thank you, Commander, for appointing me to the board.
Nice to get you. Appreciate it. Dennis DeLong.
There's no books.
Sorry to report, there were no yearbooks or narrative history books turned in this year. Bob Locker, Community Service Chairman.
All right. Well, we're gonna try to go here pretty fast. As you know, we give both 8 plaques and then certificates per district. And this is all based on the size of your post. So what I'd like to do first, I'd like to read those that are going to get plaques, and if we could get them to be down here, and we'll get the certificates first. So plaques for most dollars spent, community service would be 3M Post 599, St. Paul, Frank Lundberg Post 282, St. Louis Park, the Irwin Bix Post 16 of Bagley, and Silver Star Post 428 of Wade Park. So if we can have a post representative or command or district officer for those, come down here. Now for the highest volunteer hours per post, again, on the size of the post. Johnson Olson Post 583, Bruno. Arcade Phelan Post 577, St. Paul. Paynesville Post 271, Paynesville, and Silver Star Post 428, Wade Park. So if they are a representative, you come down here. Now for the certificates for the districts. Each district, the 4 categories of posts, and I'll quickly read those. We have both, Category 1 is up to 100 members, Category 2 is 101 to 250 members, Category 3, 251 to 700 members, and Category 4 is posts over 701. So now all of those receiving certificates, would you please come down, and Paul has got the certificates, we'll get them passed out quickly. Starting with First District, receiving certificates. Gilmore STEM Route Post 552, Freeborn. Rothy Post 330, Hayfield. Gittins, Lodell Post 595, La Crescent. And Leo Carey Post 56 of Auburn Lee. Second District, Irwin Marsh Post 64, Slayton. St. James Post 33, St. James. No entry in Category 3 or 4 for that district. Third District, Montemedi Post 507, Montemedi. Woodbury Post 501, Woodbury. Chaska Post 57, Chaska. Hutchison Post 96, Hutchison. Fourth District, Christie DeParkey, Post 406, St. Paul. Second group, North St. Paul, North End Post 474, St. Paul, and third and fourth categories, no entry. Fifth District, Hellenic Post 129, Minneapolis. Art and Leonard Faldine Post 555, Minneapolis. No entry in the third category. Fourth category, Minneapolis Richfield Post 435, Richfield. Sixth District, Tri-County Post 124, Motley. Arthur Emerson Post 147, Big Lake. Spencer Ross Post 134, Walker. Waith Park received the post on that fourth one, so they don't get a certificate, receive the plaque. Seventh District, Gus F. Holden Post 253, Lowry. Earl Ray Post 173, Tracy. American Legion Post 113, Marshall. Austin F. Hanscom, Post 167, Wilmer. 8th District, Walter Riley, Post 307, Nashwauk. Louis LaCour, Post 122, Deer River. Anderson Claffey, Post 109, Two Harbors. 4th category, no entry. 9th District, Hammerl, Post 148, Dent. Warren, Post 27, Warren. Nels T. Wold, Post 20, Crookston. East Grand Forks, Post 157, East Grand Forks. 10th District, Johnson Olson, Post 563, Bruno. Minnetonka, Post 398, Mound. Shadrick and LeBoyle, Post 303, Fridley. And Edward B. Cutler, Post 102, Anoka. And now for the plaques. We first will go with the most dollars spent. 3M Post 599, St. Paul, Category 1.
Yeah. Right over here, sorry.
All righty. For the 101 to 250 members, Frank Lundberg, Post 282, St. Louis Park.
District Commander.
Is the district commander or somebody 10th district? That's me.
Here we go. Grab your next one.
And 251 to 700 is the Irwin Blix Post 16, Bagley. Anyone here? Bagley, we have, that's Ninth District, isn't it?
Yep.
We have anybody from Ninth District? All righty, now for the, this is the one, of course, American Legion is the volunteer organization, and this is the plaques for the highest volunteer hours average for a post, again, based on their membership. First, we have Johnson Olson Post 583 Bruno, that would be the 10th district again.
Bill's on his way.
Is there a member of Wade
Bill's
Park
coming up.
here? All right, we'll get the, I guess. We'll get them too.
Just one comment. Bruno, population 80, post membership 40. That tells you a lot.
Just a minute. No, not. Waith Park. We have somebody with Waith Park, that's the 9th, is it?
Six.
Six, okay. And I'll give, they get two, they get for the 701 plus members for the most dollars spent and also the volunteer hours per member. Average.
We can ask them.
Which is the next one. Now the 251 members to 700, Painesville Post, whoop, wait a minute. Arcade Paling, Post 577.
Yeah, Len's up. He's coming up. Come on. Len.
All righty, now we have Painesville Post 271, Painesville for the 251 to 70.
I gotta think about that one.
Painesville, what district is that? Sixth. Oh. Anybody from Painesville or else? What district?
On his way to put his coat on.
You can do that later. Here's my. right, well, he's getting here. I do want to thank all those that turned in reports. Money's going up each year, but what I really like was in the last couple of years, we've increased our volunteer hours up to 50,000. So I think that shows what we're doing. All right, well, thank you, Commander. That's the end of my report.
Great job. Thanks, Bob.
Sorry, it takes so long. Not this year's.
Tom has an announcement to make here.
Yeah, just a little bit here. The Convention Corporation pays our law officer and our firefighter of the year for mileage and per diem. And Officer Dean has donated his check and he wants to go to Legionville.
Bob Hart, Legislative.
Good morning, I think, and I will be brief. My report is in the Legionnaire on page 17. Just want to give you a bit of an update. There were 12 provisions to the Minnesota Department of Veteran Affairs initiatives, and that included $845,000 worth of funding that will directly or indirectly benefit veterans and their dependents. The major tax benefit for retired veterans residing in the state, and we've sought this relief for years. The big deal was the military pension tax subtraction. It was signed by the governor on June 16th. So give yourselves a hand. We got it done after all. Now we're expecting a special session in August, and we could use your help here. Contact your representatives and senators. As you know, the bonding bill didn't get passed. We have some about $5 million in asset preservation for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. Plus, we have that truss bridge going to the Veterans Home in Minneapolis that needs to be included in the bonding bill. It was overlooked the first time, and I'll be danged if I know why. But anyway, please contact your congressman, and let's see if we can't get this done this year so that we can move forward. And I think that is my report, and I thank the Commander for the appointment.
Great job, Bob. We're going to recess now until 1:30 sharp. We're running behind, so it's going to be we want to get right at it at 1:30. And Sergeant Arms, please recognize the colors of our country.
Colors of our country in flames and salute. 2.
We stand recessed till 1:30.
Here.